Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by thanking you for inviting me to this forum, and especially thank the Special Rapporteur, Dr. Fernandi Varnes, for convening us on this timely and important topic. Preventing conflict and protection of minorities are core to my mandate and the mandate of my office. As the United Nations Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide, I'm mandated to monitor and raise alarm over situations where there is a risk of genocide and related atrocity crimes, by which I mean crimes against humanity and war crimes. In addition, my mandate and that of my office is to raise awareness on the causes and dynamics of these crimes in order to strengthen capacity of member states, regional organizations, as well as of civil society to prevent them. We know from past instances of atrocities that these crimes, in particular genocide, are not random or spontaneous events. They do not occur in a vacuum. Rather, they are processes that develop over time with several indicators of risk and warning signs. 14 risk factors of atrocity crimes. Risk factors are set out in a tool developed by my office in 2014 called the Framework for Analysis, a tool for prevention. Two of the most critical risk factors are directly related to the topic of this forum. First, the presence of an armed conflict, and second, patterns of discrimination and marginalization of protected groups, including ethnic and religious minorities. Preventing conflict and protection of minorities are therefore key ingredients to successful prevention of genocide and other atrocity crimes. Unfortunately, we are seeing alarming trends across the world when it comes to these two risk areas. Even in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, and despite the Secretary General's call for a global ceasefire, we have seen conflicts continue to rage. Over the past several years, we have also witnessed an increasing disregard for fundamental tenets of international law in conflict, from the deliberate targeting of civilians by non-state armed groups to the indiscriminate use of air power by states against civilian populations and unprotected civilian objects such as hospitals and schools. Around the world, we are also witnessing a surge in hateful and divisive rhetoric amplified by digital technology and has resulted in hate crimes, discrimination, and violence. In the most serious cases, hate speech may also be a precursor and trigger of atrocity crimes. Africa and the Middle East are not immune from these trends. In the Sahel, community-based conflict stemming from the marginalization of minorities is putting the entire region at risk of atrocity crimes. For example, communal violence continues in Mali and has spread to neighboring countries, including Burkina Faso and Niger. The violent disputes involving minority communities and other communities have become chronic, with community-based militias initially formed to defend communities becoming increasingly violent and involved in attacks against other communities. In South Africa, xenophobic attacks against Black immigrants have seen recurrences, while in Ethiopia, tensions between majority and minority ethnic groups across the country have turned violent over contestation for natural resources, including land. In the Middle East, the situation of minorities remains dire. In countries afflicted by armed conflicts such as Yemen, Syria, and Iraq, minorities have been targeted by state and non-state armed actors. We are all too familiar with the gross violations committed by Daesh against the Yazidis and other minority communities, violations which, if determined by a competent court, may amount to atrocity crimes, including the crime of genocide. In the context of the armed conflict in Yemen, discrimination and marginalization on the basis of race and ethnicity remains a concern. Armed conflicts in the region have also resulted in outflows of refugees in neighboring countries. Lebanon and Jordan, for instance, host large populations of refugees from the state of Palestine, whose living conditions in the host countries have been further compounded by the COVID-19 epidemic. Indeed, we know that crises, including disease outbreaks, create anxiety and fear that are key ingredients for racism and xenophobia to thrive. Hate speech is the most blatant manifestation of this phenomena, and in recent months, Middle East countries have not been spared by this phenomena. Ladies and gentlemen, atrocity crimes are not inevitable. we can prevent them. They are a reality in our world today because we keep repeating the same mistakes and are unable to learn our lessons. We must do more to address the risks of these crimes in our communities and societies. This includes rooting out hatred and discrimination against populations on the basis of their identity. At the United Nations, we have developed a global strategy and plan of action for tackling growing trends of hate speech, including its root causes. My office is a system-wide focal point for this strategy and is working with several partners in both regions for its implementation. For example, in collaboration with the Ethiopia UN country team, we have provided training to civil society, media, and government officials on addressing and countering hate speech. We have also supported various UN field entities in Africa and the Middle East to develop context-specific plans of action to combat hate speech. This also goes hand in hand with addressing root causes of violence, divisions, and tension in our societies, and promoting peace and inclusion. States have the primary responsibility to prevent populations from atrocity crimes. While there has been much progress in this regard, including increased understanding of early warning signs of these crimes, more efforts are still needed to ensure that this translates into early response. Effective prevention should also include placing local communities at the center of action and supporting them to implement prevention strategies at the community level. In this context, it is critical that those with influence in communities, such as political, religious, and community leaders, and civil society actors, advocate for peaceful coexistence. In Africa and the Middle East, my office is supporting such efforts through supporting grassroots actors, including religious leaders in Mali, Lebanon, and Iraq, to foster dialogue and peaceful coexistence among different communities to prevent atrocity crimes. I therefore encourage you all to include these elements in your discussions and considerations today and tomorrow. You can count on my office to remain a partner in these endeavors. Thank you.